Imagine waking up to a world where essential government services grind to a halt, leaving millions of Americans scrambling for answers and stability. This is the stark reality of the ongoing government shutdown, a crisis that's not just political theater, but a real-life struggle for everyday people. As President Donald Trump huddles with his cabinet and vows to protect military paychecks, the Senate keeps shooting down funding deals, prolonging the agony. But here's where it gets controversial. Trump's threats to slash popular programs and withhold back pay from some federal workers could reshape how we view fairness in government. And this is the part most people miss, the human stories behind the headlines, like a military wife pleading for her family's survival. Let's dive into the latest updates, breaking it down step by step so even newcomers to politics can follow along. On Thursday, President Trump convened his cabinet in Washington, D.C., as the partial government shutdown entered its 8th day. This meeting gave department heads a chance to paint a vivid picture of how the funding freeze is impacting ordinary citizens who depend on federal services, from food assistance to safety regulations. Trump didn't hold back, pressuring Democratic lawmakers who are holding out for changes to healthcare programs before agreeing to reopen the government's doors. We're going to be cutting some very popular Democrat programs that aren't popular with Republicans, frankly, because that's the way this works, Trump declared. They wanted to do this, so we'll give them a little taste of their own medicine. It's a bold stance that pits political tit-for-tat against the needs of the nation, raising questions about whether such tactics help or hinder progress. Meanwhile, the Senate struck out again on Thursday, rejecting 2 potential funding packages for the 7th time. Democrats pushed hard for their bill, which included restoring certain health reforms, while Republicans backed a temporary extension of funding through November 21st. The votes stayed mostly the same, with a handful of Democrats breaking ranks to support the GOP's 7-week plan, and all Republicans blocking the Democratic proposal that aimed to permanently extend Obamacare subsidies and undo Medicaid reductions. This deadlock isn't just frustrating. It's a reminder of how divided our leaders are, and it begs the question, when will compromise win out over partisanship? Adding to the urgency, Energy Secretary Chris Wright warned that the National Nuclear Security Administration, NNSA, responsible for safeguarding America's nuclear arsenal, is on the brink of financial collapse due to the shutdown. In just 6 or 7 days, funding could dry up, forcing a slowdown in critical maintenance and upgrades that ensure our national security. The retooling of our nuclear stockpile, the ultimate guarantor of our sovereignty, is going to be underfunded, and we're going to have to slow down and creep to crawl these efforts, Wright told Trump during the cabinet session. To put this in perspective, the NNSA's work is like the unsung heroes keeping a powerful weapon system safe and reliable, and any delay could have far-reaching implications for global stability. Interestingly, back in March, the Trump administration's Department of Government Efficiency laid off dozens at the NNSA as part of broader cost-cutting efforts, only to quickly reverse course and rehire them, a move that highlights the delicate balance between efficiency and essential operations. Trump doubled down on his warnings, blaming Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer for prolonging the shutdown after Democrats blocked a GOP bill for the 6th time on Wednesday. He reiterated threats to make permanent cuts to programs favored by Democrats but opposed by Republicans, echoing his earlier words about giving them a little taste of their own medicine. This approach sparks debate. Is it a fair negotiation tactic? Or does it risk harming vulnerable Americans who rely on these services? For beginners, think of it like a family argument, where one side threatens to throw out the other's favorite toys, effective for leverage, but potentially destructive. Shifting gears to healthcare, Trump argued that Democrats are unfairly wielding healthcare costs as a weapon in the shutdown debate, claiming Republicans are now the true champions of improving medical access. He pointed to a recent deal with Pfizer that would allow U.S. consumers to buy drugs at the same prices as in other industrialized nations, instead of subsidizing cheaper options abroad. Basically, we subsidize the world, Trump said. This is going to have a huge positive impact on Medicare, Medicaid, even Social Security. Anything where there's pharmaceuticals involved. It's an example of how policy changes could lower costs for millions. But critics might argue it doesn't address broader access issues, like insurance coverage gaps. On a related note, the Congressional Budget Office, CBO, reported that the federal budget deficit for the fiscal year ending September 30th stood at $1.8 trillion, roughly unchanged from the prior year. Revenues climbed by $308 billion. Thanks to higher customs duties and individual income taxes, though this was partly offset by lower corporate taxes. Spending increased by about $301 billion, driven largely by major benefit programs and rising interest on the national debt. The deficit was actually $8 billion smaller than the previous year's shortfall, showing a slight improvement amid economic pressures. For those new to this, the deficit is like a household overspending. It's the gap between what the government brings in and what it spends, and managing it affects everything from interest rates to future investments. The Senate is gearing up for yet another round of votes on Thursday morning, marking the 7th attempt at dueling funding bills to end the shutdown. With both parties entrenched, experts predict no breakthroughs, as Democrats demand healthcare fixes alongside reopening, while Republicans want to fund through November 21st and tackle health policy later. Senate Majority Leader John Thune summed it up simply: the government needs to be funded. Federal employees need to go back to work. Federal agencies and departments need to be open in providing the services that the American people expect. Minority Leader Chuck Schumer countered that it's possible to do both, fix healthcare and reopen the government. This ongoing stalemate feels like a never-ending loop, much like the movie Groundhog Day, where the same arguments repeat without resolution. Despite the chaos, the Transportation Security Administration, TSA, reported on October 9th that airport wait times remain normal during the shutdown. They screened about 2.4 million people the previous day, a 14.9% increase year over year, with average wait times at 6.28 minutes for standard lanes and 2.65 minutes for TSA pre-check. TSA officers classified as essential workers are still reporting for duty, even as they face potential missed paychecks. However, the agency has cautioned that a long-term shutdown could lead to longer lines, urging passenger patience. It's a small silver lining in a turbulent time, showing how some services soldier on. Federal employees are bracing for a reduced paycheck on Friday, October 10th, the first payday since the shutdown began on October 1st. While no pay is issued during the lapse, this check covers work from September 21st to October 4th, including the shutdown's first 3 days. Thanks to the Government Employee Fair Treatment Act of 2019, workers should get retroactive pay once funding resumes for hours worked during the shutdown. Yet, Trump has stirred controversy by suggesting some furloughed workers don't deserve back pay, claiming they will qualify. This marks a potential shift from past shutdowns, including the 2019 one under Trump, where back pay was standard. The White House cites a legal amendment requiring appropriations to end the lapse, but it's a point of heated debate. Should all dedicated public servants be compensated equally, or is there room for discretion based on performance? Adding a personal touch, a military wife from Virginia confronted House Speaker Mike Johnson on C-SPAN on Thursday, urging him to reopen the government or fund the military to avoid her family missing a paycheck on October 15th. With 2 children facing severe medical conditions, she warned that without action, They could die. As a Republican, I'm very disappointed in my party, and I'm very disappointed in you, she said, accusing him of prioritizing politics over people. Johnson admitted the situation keeps him awake at night and noted the House had passed a short-term extension that failed in the Senate. The Democrats are the ones that are preventing you from getting a check, he responded. This emotional exchange underscores the real-world toll of the shutdown, turning abstract politics into urgent family matters. Efforts to protect military pay are gaining momentum. Representative Jennifer Kiggans, a Republican from Virginia, introduced a bill to ensure troops get paid during shutdowns, stating, "Our service members should never have to worry about missing a paycheck because Washington can't do its job." With 148 mostly Republican co-sponsors, including Appropriations Committee member Ken Calvert, the bill aims to safeguard the next payday on October 15th for 1.3 million active duty members. Speaker Johnson argues the House doesn't need to vote again since it already approved funding through November 21st. While Trump supports the idea but hopes the shutdown resolves quickly. "You know what 1 week is for me? An eternity," Trump said. "1 week for me is a long time. We'll take care of it." It's a bipartisan push that highlights how military families are often caught in the crossfire. A recent Reuters Ipsos poll from October 8th reveals widespread frustration, with over 60% of U.S. adults blaming congressional Republicans, Democrats, and Trump for the shutdown. Specifically, 67% point fingers at Republicans, 63% at Democrats, and 63% at Trump. Trump's idea of firing federal workers resonates with 62% of Republicans, though support has dropped 14 points since April, and only 8% of Democrats agree. This poll paints a picture of a divided nation where no one escapes accountability, and it raises a provocative question. Is the shutdown a symptom of deeper dysfunction in our democracy? Looking ahead, the Senate plans another vote on October 9th, with little hope of success given the pattern of 6 prior failures. The Democratic bill seeks to restore Medicaid cuts and extend Affordable Care Act subsidies, while the Republican one extends funding to November 21st. As the standoff continues, Trump remains non-committal on Obamacare subsidies, stating, "All I want to do is very simple. I want to get the country open, and then we'll discuss that." He had earlier shown openness to a deal, but Democrats insist on including subsidies in any reopening bill, warning that without them, this could be a game changer, contravening the 2019 law he signed. Finally, Trump assured that military pay isn't at risk, signaling support for standalone legislation. With paychecks last issued on October 1st and the next due on October 15th, he said, "Yeah, that probably will happen. We don't have to worry about it yet. That's a long time." The House, adjourned until October 10th, might need to reconvene. Trump's cabinet meeting on Thursday, his 9th in his second term, typically features praise from officials aligning with his agenda. As we wrap up, the government shutdown isn't just a headline. It's a complex web of political maneuvering, human impacts, and ethical dilemmas. Trump's vows to protect the military while threatening cuts elsewhere force us to ask, is this leadership prioritizing the right priorities? And what about the idea of withholding back pay? Fair accountability or unfair punishment? Do you agree with Trump's approach, or do you see it as divisive? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's discuss how we can move forward from this impasse.